So Lanfear. No, I'm just kidding. How we feeling? Ready for a rewatch? Yes! They won't let us do that. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Well, please help me welcome to the stage showrunner and executive producer Rafe Judkins, our star and executive producer Rosamund Pike, and one of our stars, Marcus Rutherford. And last but certainly not least, another one of our stars, Ceara Coveney, everyone. I've got like a book of questions over here, everyone. It's awesome to see you. Thank you all for being here. Rafe, honestly, what an incredible start. I hadn't watched the first 11 minutes before now, and that was fantastic. So well done, Ed. I mean, as a lifelong fan of these books, that's the kind of adaptation choice that I love to see, like something like this brought to the screen. So I'm just curious, can you tell us what led to kick off the season that way? What don't we know about what went on behind the scenes to bring to us that start?
I mean, days, weeks, months of work by hundreds of people and actresses working so hard, trapped in that room. Many of them here today who spent a long time in the Tower Hall doing that. But I think, it started with us wanting to pull off a sequence that only Wheel of Time can do. Only we can have a room full of exclusively women have this massive action sequence together. It comes from the books, and so that was something we really wanted to bring to screen right from the first in the writer's room on season 3. And so we sort of worked. Amazon also asked us, is there a way to start with a bang? And we were like, I think there is. And to pull off something like that at the beginning of the season, you really do have to put all your resources towards it. People were in rehearsals early. The women working with Scarlett Mackman, our movement coordinator who helps build all of the channeling, the VFX team, Kieran, our director, everyone was involved intimately with that fight sequence right from the beginning, just to plan it and make it look as incredible as it does.
Yeah, my wife turned to me and she said, "Was that only the cold open?" I'm exhausted. Yeah, that was quite amazing. What did you think about that cold open? Rosamund, we see Moraine on the streets of Tarvalon during that same moment. She's in exile in some ways. Someone last seen in the company of Forsaken. Someone who helped bring the news, this devastating news of the Black Aja. So tell me, in what ways has Moraine evolved ever since she walked into the Two Rivers until this moment that we see her on the streets, saving Swan?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I think Moraine, when she was tasked with the finding of the baby and to find the Dragon Reborn and prepare them to face the last battle, I think when you're younger and your mentor charges you with that, yes, it's obviously a massive undertaking, but I think there wasn't a part of her that thought ultimately that she couldn't do it. And I think now she does question whether she can do it. I think there have been more and different obstacles than she envisaged. And obviously, she feels Swan didn't really do her part in preparing the tower to accept Randall Thor. I think she feels that she's put in a fuck of a lot of work and Swan slightly let the side down. So, things are a bit different from what she had in her head. And obviously, the secret is now out. There are many, many interested parties who also will want to get close to and potentially control the dragon. you know, she's been exiled from the tower. That was part of their scheme, but obviously they have to see it through and carry on keeping up appearances. And plus there's been the betrayal by Siwan, who used the compulsion on the oath rod to force Moraine to close the Waygate in our season 2, episode 7. So I think she knows she's up against it, and we see that, you know, with the uneasy. Would you call it an alliance? I don't know, but you know, you see a sort of uneasy, the beginnings of a working relationship with Lanfear, which is probably not what anyone would imagine. You know, but in some ways she's holding on to the fact that before the breaking, Lanfear loved the Dragon Reborn, and that is her one sort of risky talisman that she's holding on to say that Lanfear won't kill Rand. So I don't think she's in a very confident place, Moraine, at this point. She's also got an unruly dragon who seems to be doing a bit of studying without her. Reading of the scriptures and feeling that he suddenly knows. You know, when someone suddenly reads a book and suddenly thinks they know it all, and you feel like, you know, I've got at least 20 years or probably more experience than you, so, you know, slow down, sailor.
How is that dynamic? I mean, obviously that with Rand from the very beginning, like how has that changed for you? I mean, into season 3, from when you first, you know, you meet Rand. Like, where are you at now with him?
Well, there's an amazing journey this season for Rand and Moraine. I mean, it's the heart of the season for me. That relationship, what it is, you know, the complexity of it, and it has undertones of parent-child, or, you know, and there's also this deep, you know, after they go through Ruidian, which I can't wait for you to see. The fact that we brought Ruidian to the screen in a really expansive and you know, a way that befits the sort of spiritual complexity of that place. Rafe has written a really beautiful episode, which is our episode 4. And it's a trial and a test, and they come out of it forever changed. And there's a knowledge then between them that's deeper than words. And I think we've conveyed that, and I think you'll see it. So there's this testy, you know, argumentative relationship between Rand and Moraine, but it evolves into a place of deep trust. And I think, you know, Moraine, as we know, doesn't find it very easy to trust anyone. And I think she realizes that in order to still have a place in Rand's life, she has to trust him in order to get him to trust her. And that's not an easy journey for her, but Ruidian definitely helps them along the path.
Who's looking forward to seeing Ruidian? I mean, Rafe, speaking of that dynamic between Rand and Moraine, you've talked a lot about how it was your honor to adapt The Shadow Rising. Why was The Shadow Rising for you such an important aspect of this, you know, preparing for it? Why has this always been something, ever since the very beginning when you pitched the idea, like, why is it so important to you?
Yeah, I felt, for me, when I was reading the books the first time, The Shadow Rising was that book that just suddenly everything seemed to start to come together, and you understood not only the scope of what Robert Jordan was building, but also the depth of it, and how carefully all the pieces had been laid for those characters to land in those places, and to tell a story that's truly different. We hadn't seen anything like what happens, you know, in book 4, The Shadow Rising. And so I think for us in the writer's room from the beginning, really building to this and you know, knowing that we needed to put the pieces in place in the earlier seasons to be able to tell this story cleanly and clearly from the books was always something that was very forefront in our minds. And I think you feel it on screen this season. You feel that the show is riding forward and just sort of like living with these people now. You know them, you know this world, and now you get to enjoy it with them. And I think that's one of the really special things about that book, and hopefully we've done it justice on screen. We worked really hard to try to, but it's you know, I think it's a really iconic piece of fiction, and so we're very lucky that we got to work on it this year, and everyone, I think, was really inspired by it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it was a comment by Robert Jordan that he found that the writing in Ruidian was some of his best work. So we're looking forward to absolutely seeing that come together this season. Marcus, it's so good to see you.
How you doing, man?
Good to see you. One of the most prominent moments, I think, for all fans, and we did a recent rewatch, and I remember everyone loving this moment between you and Isla when you met the Tinkers, and she brings to his mind this question of the path to choose between peace and violence, and that's something we've seen you struggle with ever since Winter Night, many, many years ago, right? Even just for us. But we know in the trailer and what we see in today's episode, he's going back to the Two Rivers. So for you, where's Perrin at? Where's he at in his head, returning back to this place that was such a source of love at home, but also this pivotal moment for him where he started questioning this idea of what is peace and violence?
Yeah, it was actually like quite moving going back to the set in Prague. We went back to that Two Rivers, that sort of quarry where it's built, and yeah, there was kind of this journey for the character of everything he's kind of gone through, and I think what was really lovely about season 2 is kind of isolating Perrin, so he gets all these different perspectives and these different philosophies of how to navigate stuff, whether he's with the Shienarans or whether he's with he meets Avienda, or whether he's with Elias, and those different ways of like how to navigate stuff. He has this sort of like tutoring sort of mentorship thing where he can kind of start to kind of form the kind of version that he is of himself. But again, I think what happens at the end of season 2, I think he kind of just wants to remove himself from this sort of prophecy, and you kind of see him talking to Rand. He's just like, I'm not that guy, do you know what I mean? I don't want to be that person. I think being thrust into this quest ever since Moraine turned up in that first episode, I think he just wants to seek solace and return home. But I think, yeah, in returning home, there's everything's kind of changed, and he's a completely different person. And I think that kind of inner conflict and that dichotomy between, wanting to be sort of this passive, gentle kind of person and wanting to think before things actually happen, but also like the reality of, war and conflict has kind of followed him wherever he's gone on his journeys, and is that even possible? So I think going back home and seeing, an immediate threat there, and he isn't without sort of the help of the other people, I think that kind of is a new quest for him. But I think, yeah, he's kind of, things have been kind of etching away at him slowly, and I think he's been changing without him realizing. So I think when he says to sort of Rand in that moment, you can't be this kind of person, I think he slowly has been changing without him realizing. But I also think, as I said to Davina, there was a part of the character I always felt slightly like naked on camera. It was really weird. I always felt there was something incomplete about the character, and actually putting the lenses in and having those eyes, there was something about it that felt like certain and finite, and that was really amazing. And you kind of have these reactions to people on set and go back, and it reminded me of those passages in the books where he realizes he goes home and everyone's kind of looking at him and he has his head down and he doesn't want to. So there was this weird journey for the character that kind of mirrored, kind of my experience as well, and kind of going back to that set. And we filmed there in 2019, and a lot's changed then. A lot changed in the world. It was pre-COVID. We've had people on our cast get married or have kids and stuff. So there was just like this amazing thing to return there as the character, but also as myself with this kind of new perspective, and to kind of feel you're the same person but realise all this time has passed and you're not. So he's a joy to play, and I think that's kind of mirrored in this sort of an amazing season for him. I remember reading this book in particular, and I know it's a big one for Perrin fans. And I think all those people who've kind of chipped away at him in different ways, like Elias and Avienda, have all kind of started to make him see a version of himself. But there's one person in particular who comes in this season who kind of, who kind of, almost just sort of slaps it out of him. Do you want me to
We understand.
Yeah, and I'm incredibly excited for people to see Isabella's performance as well. I think, you know, I was talking to Rafe about when we were casting. The characters on the show are amazing, and to bring something new at this stage that is completely different, and to be that kind of yin yang to kind of Perrin, but to also be a complete, you know, character in herself with her own, you know, motivations and stuff is really exciting. And yeah, I can't wait for you to see her work.
Any Perrin fans out there? No, there's a bit of that Perrin's journey, that homecoming. I think we feel that. You want to go home, right? And even just being on the stage and being in front of all these fans, it feels like that. Wow, like we've been talking about the show, and as fans, like it's cathartic to come and chat about this. Ceara.
Hello.
Like honestly, you won us all over as Elaine. Like, right? There's something so right about those season 2 scenes, the dynamic between you and Egwene, and you and Nynaeve. There's just some like fantastic moments, but honestly, it showed how wise and considerate and strong Elaine is. But we also see in the trailer for the show that her family's arrived. And so I'm curious, you know, what are the challenges that Elaine feels when it comes to balancing not only, you know, the Tower's priorities, but also the priorities of the throne, but also Elaine's priorities, which we saw, you know, changed a little bit this episode. So yeah, tell us about where's Elaine at?
I think Elaine is in a little bit of turmoil. She's got quite a lot going on right now. But yeah, I think obviously we were introduced to her last season, and it was very much, she was in a position where she was a fish out of water, and it was a new environment for her and very different to the world that she knew before. And she met these two incredible, powerful women. And I think these relationships really shaped her. And also, she was obviously thrown into a life-threatening situation, being kidnapped by Leandrin. And I think the worst almost happened to her. And along with Nynaeve, they managed to save Egwene, and she was thrown into all these situations where I think her world was really cracked open, and she started to really not only see her strengths, but also was maybe exposed to some of her flaws. And I think the start of season 3, she's really starting to explore those things, and I think she is very passionate about wanting to be the first Aes Sedai queen. So that is a very big driving factor for herself. But I think also we really see that she has quite literally let her hair down. And with the lovely help of Sharon and Davina, they've really evolved her look. And I think we have really shown that she's really started to kind of question what type of queen she wants to be and what experiences she wants to have. And yeah, and she's exploring different things. And she's just, I think we also get introduced to her family, and I think a piece from the books that I really drawed upon this season was the passage about her being like a towel between two dogs, between Morghese and Sawan. And I think that imagery has really driven like my performance and the internal processes of Elaine, because I really think that is where she is at, and she's in between these incredible powerhouses of women, and I think that really informs her strength in standing in herself and figuring out who she wants to be and the path that she wants to take this season. And she's really starting to maybe see the world a little bit differently than through the lens of her mother, which is what she's kind of had before, and she's starting to really recognise that maybe what the path that her mother has set out for her, or the way that her mother sees her ascending to the throne, is not actually what is going to be needed in order to be the most powerful queen in the last battle.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You brought up explorer, and that word hits me with Elaine. I really like that. That is it's on par for what I expect for her. So we can't wait. We can't wait. Rosamund, we saw this today in episode 1. Moraine has a little bit of an unexpected visitor in Lanfear. And Moraine grew up in a very political state and has been around power through the White Tower as an Aes Sedai. But do you believe she's prepared to, for this, for this conflict that seems to be kind of boiling up with Lanfear, wanting Rand or wanting to push for Rand at the same time that Moraine has desires to kind of push Rand a certain way too?
Is she prepared for Lanfear? No, I think she's terrified of Lanfear. I think Lanfear is incredibly frightening, but Moraine is not going to let anyone into her fears, or let anyone see them, because there's no boon to you in showing your fear, I think. Eventually she actually learns this episode that in this season that she has to show some vulnerability to Rand, because there's one point where she has to ask for help in a specific area, and he's probably the only person who can fully understand what she's asking. But it's very unlike Moraine to ask for help. Who didn't turn their phone off? It's interesting with Lanfear. I asked Rafe when we were talking after season 2. I said I think I find Moraine most interesting in her ruthlessness. I think the zealot in Moraine, the total single-minded commitment to a cause, and it's a cause for which she's prepared to die. That is a very interesting place to live. In a way, you're lucky if you can find such a cause in your life. But it also can be alienating for people. And I think, Moraine in episode 8 of season 2, when she said, I'll let 1,000 people die if it means that he can live. That place I find very interesting. And so Rafe and I talked about it quite a lot, and we really enjoy the part where at the end of episode 1, you see Moraine seemingly let this torture endure. Obviously, she doesn't know. We find out that this is connected to the Grey Man, and whoever is producing the Grey Man, I don't know how much I'm not going to say too much, but there's obviously a part of the plan that even Lanfear wasn't aware of, and the whole thing went out of hand in a way that neither of them were in control of. But Moraine, at the point that we see her ask Lan to wait, we see a pretty cold-blooded woman there.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, to delve into who this woman is and how she can really do this, and see that at the same time she does feel for people. She has very close connections with Lan, with Siwan, and her knowledge that she would really sacrifice anything for Rand and for the Dragon Reborn and for what that means. I think I can't say too much about it, but I think you see that really come to a head for her in a beautiful, emotional way at the end of this season.
It's a big thing to have that kind of commitment and belief in a cause. It's not a lot of people have it. Lots of people would run away, and she doesn't. She has.
And that's part of her heroism, I think,
Yeah.
is her commitment to this cause. Even though she will do bad things for it, I think it's still heroic, and some of our other characters may come to see that too.
You're gonna hate me saying this, but we're getting close to the last question or two. So I know. This question's for any of you who'd like to step in here, but I'll start with you, Rafe. As a showrunner and executive producer, longtime book fan, and you've talked about this in other seasons, so I'm curious, what are the most dominant Wheel of Time themes that, run throughout season 3 for you?
I think the idea of homecoming is very present in book 4, and for all the characters in different ways, Perrin in a more literal way, Elaine with her family, Rand going to a place that is his home but isn't as he journeys into the Aiel Waste. For all of the characters, they're kind of reckoning with the adult idea of home. And in the room, we talked about it a lot of you know, that feeling when you've lived in a different city for a while after college, and then you go back to your hometown, and the feeling of friction and nostalgia that's associated with that, it shows who you are and how you're changing from what you were kind of born to be to what you want to be. And I think a lot of our characters are struggling with that this season, and you see that sort of reverberating through all the plot lines.
Yeah, Rosamund, does one strike you also? I mean, you're a narrator now of the books, and it's amazing. And I know how much you've come to appreciate Robert Jordan's works. Is there a theme that stands out to you this season?
I think the idea of submission versus strength, maybe. You know, when one needs to submit and when one needs to seize power, and the sort of yin-yang of that idea. I think Moraine explores that a lot in her relationship with Rand about control and submission, and I think that's something that Robert Jordan was thinking about a lot in many characters and many dynamics, and especially as it relates to the one power and the different uses of it between men and women. You know, is the one power something that you submit to fully, or is it something that you have to dominate? And I think that's a big question. That's something I was thinking about a lot this season.
Thank you. I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but did one come to mind as you were listening? Just a theme from the Wheel of Time, from your time as a character here, something that stood out to you.
I think there's like a sense of like duty in this season, and like fate in that way. I think there's something about the characters kind of not wanting to maybe kind of admit a certain side to them or their kind of role in this prophecy, but I think there's something about season 3 where they kind of claim that sense of duty and their responsibility and their role in this, which is quite interesting, whether that's kind of reluctantly or pushed, you know, by someone else or whatever, but there's something about sort of filling that shape of whatever that role is. Whereas I think in season 1 and season 2, there's still a little bit of like a reluctance there, but there's something about this season of kind of stepping into that position, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, the duty, that's fantastic. And Ceara, I don't know if I put you on the spot there.
Mine was duty too.
No.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think probably going off of duty, the idea of leadership, and I think a lot of characters are questioning. I think they're questioning the idea of leadership and what that means to them, and also what a leader looks like and what a leader's duty entails, and I think what it means to lead people to success.
Yeah,
Ceara also sings this season.
Yes!
You just should know.
Well, I just want to thank you and thank you all. Robert Jordan's made a huge impact on my life. But honestly, the greatest impact, and this is just a phrase that sticks with us all, right? That it's about all of us. It's all of the people, whether or not it's been online, whether they've met in person. It's all the people that have made the biggest difference. All the fans of Robert Jordan that have connected with me, that have made the biggest difference. So I just want to thank Robert Jordan for bringing us all here, and that we're all here. And I want to thank all of you for showing up, and for the 4 of you. Thank you so much for being up here, and thank you so much for being here.
And there are more of our cast in the room as well, so we should,
And don't be shy, go and say hello to them. They'll love to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And please do, just a final note, please do respect the request that they made about the no video and no posting. If you have questions about that, as you're like, oh, am I gonna just ask? But no, I really appreciate just the discretion of fans, and I hope you have enjoyed this time here. And
You are allowed to post how much you love the show, and you're allowed to keep it on 24 hours a day the week that we premiere so that we can get a season 4 on Amazon.
Yeah, please do that and send that to the gods at Amazon. Because,
yeah. And how about we get we got a picture with the audience here, everyone? Yeah? Well, that's yeah.
A giant selfie.
Giant selfie? Yeah.
I can see you in the back, so give me some excitement, everybody.